Thank you for viewing this presentation. My name is Daniel Adam Fink, the bibliologist. In this presentation, I will be explaining the nature of Pithom and Raamses as cities, but more importantly, the regions which they represent and how they relate to the Exodus. Here inside of this dashed red shape, you see the region of Goshen, usually called Goshen. That was the eastern side of the Nile Delta and the place where the Nile River channel meets the Nile Delta at Cairo. Everything from Memphis next to modern Cairo all the way to the eastern side of the Nile Delta was the land of Goshen. It has many names in the Bible. During the Hyksos era of Egyptian history, Asian persons from West Asia, that being Hebrews, settled, populated, and came to dominate this entire vicinity. So when you hear Pithom and Raamses in the Bible, that refers to these cities which were the homeland of the Hebrews and the place the Hebrews left during the Exodus. To the very center of this map, where the red and yellow shapes overlap, you see two white dots. They'll be much clearer on the next slide. That is Sukkoth. It was called Chakah by the Egyptians. This was a stream valley, a fertile stream valley, which led in and out of Egypt proper. There are three ways or routes which are mentioned in the Bible which one could use going to and from this area. So the first one, as you see on the right side, toward the middle of the right side, the way of Shur, that is the way which was traveled by Abraham, and Jacob, that's Jacob in Genesis, and that was the way exclusively traveled in Genesis. In Exodus, the name above there, Way of the Philistines, the Egyptians called that the Way of Horus. That is the way that was avoided in the Exodus. And finally at the bottom, when you follow the yellow shape from the center to Suez and beyond, that is the way of the Red Sea wilderness. This is the route traveled in the Exodus, leaving Goshen. The name Pithom, pronounced Pithom, P being the house of, and Tum being Atum, the Egyptian deity. The Egyptian deity was worshipped in Heliopolis. It's known as Beit Shemesh. It's also known as On. In the Bible, this was the most sacred worship center in Egyptian history. Arguably the oldest significant worship center in all of human history. It was located northeast of modern Cairo. Southwest of modern Cairo is the pyramid complex with the Sphinx at Giza, which were outside of Memphis. So where you see these two red dots to the left west of the word Pithom, those are the major cities, the popular capital Memphis and the sacred capital Heliopolis, Pithom, in Lower Egyptian history. So Pithom is more than just a temple or a city. It is the capital region of Egypt. That is what Pithom means. Likewise, Raamses is a house of worship, a city, and more importantly, a region. At the center of this map, the name Raamses is next to something which says Zona de Goshen on Google Maps. That is P. Raamses, the house of Raamses, the city which was built on the site of the city Avaris, Hotwaret. Avaris was the capital of the Hyksos Empire. That is the name and the green circle directly to the right of Raamses. You see 4 more arrows and 4 more cities. These are the major cities which are named in the Bible in the region of Raameses. So Pithom is the region of the capital. Raameses is the region of Goshen. It is still, to this day, a defined region, a governorate of Egypt. This governorate and this region have had the same shared identity for over 4,000 years. On this slide, we come to identify and understand the true meaning of all of these names, the cities and regions which are mentioned in biblical Egypt. So we're going to go to the quotes from the Bible on the left, Exodus 1:11, and they built store cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Raameses. And at the center of the map, on the center of this slide, you see in red the names Pithom and Raameses. These are the capital region and the Eastern Delta region. Not only are they closest to Canaan, which would later be called Palestine, but they also were the capitals and population centers of ancient Egypt, most particularly Lower Egypt. Next we have, and the sons of Yashar'el journeyed from Raameses to Sukkoth. So Sukkoth at the very center, where you see these blue dots, these are walking directions from Google Maps, and two white dots, that is the fertile valley which was traveled to and from Egypt and Canaan by the Hebrews in the Exodus journey. Psalms 78:12. This is so important in identifying the true meaning of Raameses in the Bible. Before their fathers, he did wonders in the land of Egypt, the field of Tza'an. So Raameses, the city, that it has a number 3. Inside of this black shape, you see dotted lines from Google Maps, which are the Sharqiya Governorate, the Eastern Governorate of Egypt unto this day. That is the region of Goshen, land of Raameses, the field of Tza'an. They are all the same, and the definition of this place still remains at different times. Avaris, or P. Raameses, the house of Raameses. At the center of that dashed line, city number 3 has been the capital. At other times, number 4, directly above it to the north, Tanis, Sa'an in the Bible, was the capital of that region. And as you go right, number 5, Tachvenches, that is Tel Dafana, was also a capital. So capitals moved over periods of hundreds and thousands of years. This is the most ancient civilization on Earth. But that region has had very important cities which have been capitals of much or even all of Egypt throughout its history. Those are some of the cities which we are discussing right now. Next, Yahu, that's Jeremiah 44. The word that came to Yahu concerning all the Jews that dwelt in the land of Egypt, that dwelt in Migdal, and in Tachvenches, and in Naph, that's Memphis. That is the central capital, quite often the chief capital of much or all of Egypt throughout Egyptian history, the population center, and in the land of Patros, saying. So these are the very important cities mentioned in the Bible. As you can see where they are located and where they are clustered, that's the true meanings of departing Pithom and Raamses. This was the heartland of the Hyksos. Yehezekiel, Ezekiel, the young man of On, that is the name of the city of Heliopolis. Pithom is the temple of On. And Bosset, that's Bubastes, will fall by the sword and thereby will go into captivity. So you have the majority of the names of any cities mentioned in the entire Bible within Egypt, all on this map, and how they relate to Canaan and the biblical Hebrews. Yehezekiel 30, and I will pour my wrath upon sin, that's Pelusium, where you look at the green dots, the one furthest to the right and up, Sin. And next to it you see from Google Maps, Theater at Pelusium. That is the furthest east city of Egypt proper. The bulwark of Egypt. It was the bulwark because that is the city that was first to defend against invaders from the Mediterranean and from Asia. And I meet the multitude of Na, that's Thebes. Thebes being the capital of Upper Egypt. So here when you see the cluster of the cities, you understand these cities which are named in the Bible, how do they relate to each other, and how do they relate to Canaan and the Hebrews who are to the east, the right of this map. Here we have proof positive that Rameses is the land of Goshen, the field of Saan. Many biblical researchers have already understood that this is the case. There is some resistance from people who are trying to establish two places in Sukkoth as being Pithom and Raamses. The problem is they are not major cities. They were never the capitals of the Hyksos. They were way stations. They did not exist during this time frame, and it also ignores the Bible, which is always a bad idea when solving the Bible to ignore the Bible. I know that sounds obvious, yet it happens so much. So let's regard the Bible. Go to the left to the quotes. Psalms 78. This is how you know that Saan is Goshen. And they forgot his deeds and the wonders which he had shown. Before their fathers he did wonders in the land of Egypt, the field of Saan. That is the green area, all of the green of the Sharkia governorate, which you see within the black shape, the field of Saan. He clove the sea and made them to cross over, and the water stood like a wall. So this is referring directly to the Exodus, referring to the region where the Hebrews came from as the field of Saan. So at that point you know that is the land of Goshen. You also know that leaving Rameses does not mean one city or one spot, Rameses, because here it's called the field of Saan. These are two different cities. Genesis 47. The land of Egypt is open before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best part of the land. Let them stay in the region of Goshen. So here we know that the field of Saan is Goshen. And if you know some men of ability among them, put them in charge of my livestock. So we have established that Saan is Goshen, which it is. Same chapter, very few verses later. Genesis 47:6, Genesis 47:11, and Joseph settled his father and his brothers, giving them possession of the land of Egypt in the best ground of the land of Rameses, as Pharaoh had commanded. So the land of Goshen that Pharaoh had commanded just 5 verses earlier is the land of Rameses. That's correct. That is that region. That is the field of Saan. They are all identical, and they are analogous today to the present Asharkia governorate. West Asia, North Africa, biblical lands are the most traditional places on earth. Here on this slide we see multiple sources and multiple explanations of the temple and city at Heliopolis being the one and only Pithom. There are more. Everything in the Bible always has more evidence. Thank you for viewing and now understanding this presentation. Pithom and Raamses really means the Hebrews departing Egypt for Canaan. So Pithom, as you can see in this mouth on the left, the city of On, Beit Shemesh. Beit is house of, Shemesh is the sun. Heliopolis is sun city. This is the place where the sun was worshipped, the most important sun worship city in human history. Multiple places in the remainder of the Bible and throughout the biblical world were named after this city. South of Pithom, these are the yellow boxes on the left. On either side of Cairo is Memphis, the great population center and capital where the Nile River meets the Nile Delta. So Pithom really means the Egyptian capital district where the Nile River meets the Nile Delta. Then, the red boxes in the map on the left, that is the land of Raamses, the land of Raameses, the land of Goshen, the field of Sa'an, which is Tanis. So when you look at these cities, the red being Raamses, the yellow being Pithom, and then you see the fertile valley at the very center of the map on the left, that's Sukkoth. It shows you exactly what the Bible means. How do you have 1,000,000 or more persons leave one city in the Bronze Age? It's a trick question. You don't. They're coming from this entire region. That's a migration of people from an entire region, especially when you regard the fact that they are shepherds, they are merchants, these are migratory people. There's not 1,000,000 or more persons within one city in this entire era of human history, but there is 1,000,000 or more people located within the entire region of Pithom and Raamses. I will be explaining the Exodus crossing in my next video. Thank you for viewing this tutorial. My name is Daniel Adam Fink. I do have the entire map of Genesis and the Exodus route completed. I do know where multiple Chalcolithic and Bronze Age cities are, and I do know genetic evidence of an extraordinarily important migration event in human history. Please notify other people of these videos in which I will be explaining for the first time in over 2,000 years the biblical Exodus. Thank you. Shalom, Chaverim.